Hi everyone, thank you Amanda. As Amanda said, my name is Liz McCreish. I head up our analytics practice. And what I'm going to talk about in this last session today is embedding BI and analytics within your operational systems. The way we're going to do this is kind of our objectives are going to go through, see what we mean by embedded BI, understand some of the benefits you can get from doing this, and think some things you might need to consider if you're going down that route. We'll do that by kind of talking you through some examples we've seen within customers, and then we'll actually get to see a bit of a demo. So we want to start off here. I think traditionally we've seen operational systems which have got a large number of users and kind of sitting in a bit of a silo. What we then started to see is data coming out of those operational systems and feeding into business intelligence solutions. So here we're seeing a smaller group of users taking that data and having things like dashboards, interactive reports. So we're kind of seeing a bit more in-depth analysis. And kind of an even smaller niche group of users is those who are doing advanced analytics using tools like SAS and SPSS. So they're trying to really find some additional insights in your data. And that flow of the data has been traditionally one way. What we've been seeing a lot more in the last couple of years is kind of a merging between business intelligence and analytics. So as Trevor was saying earlier, that continuum, it's kind of a blurring of the edges. We're seeing this twofold. So we're seeing it from vendors. So we've got the analytics vendors are putting much more data visualization and kind of reporting and more user-friendly aspects into their tools. And from the other side, we're seeing the BI vendors taking analytics. So as Maddie was showing earlier, Tableau 9 now has an official analytics pane in there. So a lot of the functionality was already in there, but you kind of had to dig to get out. If anyone was here at our last seminar, Andrew demonstrated a SAS tool called Visual Analytics, and that's kind of SAS's offering that takes you away from kind of the deep dive stats where they lock you in a room and you're not allowed out. But it's much more user-friendly and approachable, and it's doing a lot more visual analytics, so it's combining the two in a much more user-friendly fashion. And kind of the step on from that is where we're now seeing a lot of vendors actually within the operational kind of systems, so where you're kind of doing your day-to-day job, whether it's kind of CRM systems, ERP systems, things like Salesforce, and bringing that added insight from your BI and analytical solutions, embedding that into the operational. You always need a definition. So Gartner's definition is it's the use of reporting and analytic capabilities in transactional business applications. I think that's a little bit dry. So from my point of view, for something to be a successful embedded application, I think it needs to be a single sign-on. I don't want to have to keep logging in and then logging in again. I think it has to be kind of a seamless integration. So I don't want to think of obviously going from one application, jumping into another where there's no kind of context and no similar look and feel. Ideally, if we can kind of pass the context through, so if I'm looking at customer one in my operational system, I click on a link, and I'm now looking at a BI report for that single customer. I think that's a great way of kind of keeping that thread across the different solutions. But there's different kind of varying aspects, I think, of sophistication you can implement. So just to kind of talk you through a few of those. Kind of what I'd say our first level is static reports. So we've got like an example here is a PDF. So we've got nothing on that report that allows us to do any filtering or changing. We've just got all of the information we need for whichever supplier we're interested in. It's static. But there might be multiple pages and lots of different bits of data, but it's very focused information and it's just there with no interactivity. A step on from that is what I would call a managed interactive report. So here it's still pretty much fixed format, but you can kind of see we've got a little bit more interactivity up here. So we've got filters and we've got some limited drill down capabilities. So we let the user do some interactivity, a little bit more of kind of drilling to detail, but not getting too wild and not giving them too much scope. A step on from that then is interactive dashboards, and here we're taking a much bigger leap into empowering the users, giving them more information to support what it is they're trying to do. So here we've got multiple tabs across the top for different focused business areas. We've got all of our dimensions, a lot more flexibility, but we've still got lots of information. And the idea with the dashboards being it's a bit more of a guided analytics experience for the user. So we fit each of these workflows and tabs within a business process, so you get the right data to the right person at the right time. That's going to be my mantra for today. Taking a step on from that, it's more around some of the stuff that Amanda's been talking about with self-service reporting. So things like Tableau. So here we've got free-form reporting. We can pick from any of the dimensions and measures we have available within our data model. We can create our own reports, whether bar charts, pie charts, maps. We can combine data together, and then we can publish that if we've got the access rights and share that with more people within our user group. With more power comes great responsibility, and this is kind of one of those areas where, as Amanda's saying, you need to support your users if it's more training is needed. And then the final step forward is this advanced analytics. So here is where you're actually taking the information, you're running it through statistical algorithms and giving information back to help with decision making. In this example, if you're creating a claim, putting in all the information, and if at that point in time you can run your information through a package or model that will come back and give you information that says, hold on a minute, there's something dodgy going on here. If I was you, I'd pass it on to your fraud team immediately because there's some red flags popping up with this information. So at the point of entry, you're getting information and feedback so you can take an immediate action. So one of the first examples I'm going to talk through is, I'm going to make you all a bit of role playing, but not too much interactivity. So imagine you've just got a new job, you're working in the procurement department for a packaged goods company. So someone like Nestle or Mars, I know we've got a few people from there in the audience. Your boss comes to you and says, right, I've got a big meeting with one of our key suppliers. What information can you give me so I go to this meeting prepared? Well, you know you've got lots of information available. You've got your data marts, you've got some information and metrics, but you've got to go to different places to get these. So if I need the contacts for who I'm going to be meeting, who are the key players in that company? I'd like to want some KPIs, so how good a job are they been doing? So what's their performance been over the last 6 months? Are they fulfilling all my orders on time? What's the invoicing status? You know, what's overdue? Do I need to actually bring in someone from finance and get more information available? What's my contract situation? What are my payment terms? When's my contract up for renewal? There's probably a lot more information as well. So traditionally what you would have had to have done is kind of gone to each of these different systems and get that bit of information, a bit from here, a bit from there, call someone up, can you send me this? So you've got lots of bits of kind of moving pieces. And what their solution was actually to create a SharePoint collaboration portal. So we got all of that information together. So it's a mix of contact information about the suppliers, financial metrics, all in the one place. It allows collaboration, so you can actually input additional information, outputs from meetings, etc. And in addition to that collaborative kind of online experience, there's also an option to have a PDF, so a static report that can be printed off with kind of a highlight, kind of a one-stop shop information that you can take with your meeting to you. So I think it's a nice way of pulling information together, getting everything you need in the one place, but also having that collaboration and the ability to edit and add information to it. It's going to be a busy morning. We've got a new job now, new industry. We're moving to the insurance area. So we're going to be looking at creating new policies and dealing with claims as they come into our system. Within the industry, you'll be working a lot of your time within your policy administration tool, and it's there if you're an underwriter, that's where you're writing your policies. If you're a claims adjuster, you're getting your claims coming in and you're doing some work around that. And what our customers have done, they use Subscribe as their admin tool. I don't know if anyone here uses Subscribe. A few people, okay. So they use the web tabs capability to take the data that they have in their reporting services reports and be able to see that side by side with the data that they're actually inputting into their administration tool. So what it allows them to do is if they're entering the data for a policy, they can get a compliance check alongside to see, is this information everything we need? Is there bits that are missing? For that policy, they can see a renewal history. So how many years has this policy been going? Has it been increasing over time? And other kind of key metrics such as the loss ratio and what your exposure is within that particular line of business. So being able to have the two things side by side without having to go into another system is a real time saver for them. Third job of the morning, and the last one, hopefully. We're now working in a pharmaceutical company within their sales area. And this is a solution we delivered, which is built using Salesforce. So as in the sales team, they spend a lot of their time within Salesforce. So this is where they kind of log who they're meeting, who they're calling, what their tasks are. So it's got all the contact information, meetings, etc. In a separate solution, they've got all of the kind of ERM data, so all their sales data, both actuals and targets. So what we did for this customer is we delivered a solution using ClickView, which took the data from both of those sources together and enabled them to see side by side both the performance in sales versus target, but also the performance of their sales reps as well. So they've got both sets of data together. So what this enables them to do is to really see an overall picture of where they're going and seeing, is there any relationship between the amount of activity that their salespeople are doing and what their sales are actually in the market. And once that solution was delivered, it was really useful. People were finding it very helpful. But to take that one step further and kind of to increase the user adoption and ensure it was a much more seamless delivery, we then embedded that ClickView application directly into their Salesforce. So the tool that they're in most of their day, kind of in and out, logging their calls and working out what their activities need to be, is also where they can now see these performance metrics side by side. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so how many people here use Salesforce to any degree or Viva? Okay, a lot of people in the front row. So for those who are unfamiliar, Salesforce allows you to kind of track all of your information and kind of with contacts and kind of calls. Internally, we use it for things like this, for our campaigns. So for our mail shots, for our seminars and workshops, who's attended, who's registered. So we're keeping a tab on everyone here. So we kind of allow that information so we can kind of see who's coming, what topics are of interest to our customers, and make sure that we can kind of tailor our emails to them and their relevant industries and relevant technology considerations. In this example here, because we're in the pharmaceutical industry, it's actually to do with more accounts and kind of hospitals, clinics, dentists. As this is a real application, we have desensitized the data. And when you come to our sales reps, you'll see my colleague who was converting it for me. I think the US Open must have been on or something, because all of our sales reps are now golfers. So we've got Tiger Woods doing a storm in the clinical research department. But in here, we're still in Salesforce. So this is my home page, my dashboard. And it's got some high-level information, so I can kind of see a split of all of our contacts by industry, by type, and how many active records we've got. For me personally, I've got the list of tasks that I've got to do. And when I go in the morning and I log in here, the first thing I get is a pop-up that says, overdue, you should have called this person yesterday. And it gives you a list of just an idea of what you're going to do. And down at the bottom, I've also got some meetings in place, so I know what my activities are going to be for the next day. It's also got a chatter link, which allows you to share information with different groups of users within your community. This is our test server, so there's not very much on here, apart from my picture at the Taj Mahal, which I recommend. But allows you to kind of share information between groups, which is quite useful. And if I go to my accounts tab, I can see the accounts that I've been most recently active in. Or I can choose to see all the accounts within the system if I want to see who we've got, what the splits of data are. This is all standard Salesforce capability. For anyone who uses it, a lot of these tabs will be very familiar. But what we have at the end here is an additional tab called Sales Activity Analytics. And this is where we've embedded our ClickView application directly within Salesforce. So I'm going to go to that. Hopefully my VPN connection's still up. Yeah. And now this is ClickView. So I'm no longer using the Salesforce functionality. This is my ClickView dashboard embedded within Salesforce. So how many people here use Click? This will be the last poll of the day, I swear. Yeah, okay, so quite a few. So once you know what Click looks like, we can see we're in a Click application. I've got a number of different tabs for different kind of functions and kind of focused reporting. I can select time periods at the top. I've got all of my dimensions at the side. And here we've got our two sets of data. On the left, we've got our data from our Salesforce system, so it's all relating to sales reps. And on the right, we've got our sales information and targets. If I pick a different region, and filter to retail. My charts refresh. And for those who aren't familiar with Click, one of the nice features is it's got an associative selection. So because I filtered to retail, I'm only seeing 3 of my sales reps. So we've got good old Rory McIlroy in there. So we've got Rory, Tiger and Kyle doing my sales for me in my retail industry, and the rest of the golfers are working elsewhere. I'm sure there's some joke in there about golfing and drug abuse, but I'm not au fait with golf, so I don't know if there's any racy stories there. But what's nice about this, I've now selected to retail. I'm looking at my targets, but I want to see a bit more information about my sales reps, as that's what I'm really interested in. So I'm going to go to my coverage and frequency tab. So here I'm focused in on my sales rep information. And you can see that my retail filter is held through, so that will every time I move to a new tab, my selections are already in place. It's got some nice features. I can use this segment and look by segment, by account, and just quickly cycle through different splits of my data. And what I'm really interested in is kind of seeing, well, is there customers that we're not calling? I can see here we've got some percentage calls and they're kind of doing a decent job. So what I've created here is another view which really focuses in on those customers who haven't been called in the last 7 days. I happen to know that segment A is my best segment, the ones I'm most interested in. So I'll filter to A using my chart, and now I can see the accounts associated with it. So what I really want to do is set myself a task that I need to call someone in this business. So this schedule link, if I click on that, what it does is it opens a window. In fact, it opens a new Salesforce window. So that was probably a bit quick, so I'll go back and just show that again. Here, we're in Click View. Once we click the schedule link, it opens up a new Salesforce window, and it lets me type in and actually create a new task for me to do. So I'm going to call Ben, call re-meeting. I can link it to an opportunity, a contact, or an account, and I can save that. And now when I go back to my home page, there's my reminder, the things I haven't done. It's very annoying. When you first go in the morning, you get that beep coming up and tell you all the things you should have done. These are my overdue appointments, and my new one is also there. So it allows me to seamlessly keep track between looking at my performance, setting myself new tasks to do, and I can easily go back and switch between the two very, very seamlessly. So I hope that kind of gives you a small illustration of some of the capabilities. So we've taken a look. So what are some of the benefits you can get from embedding analytics within your solution? I think my mantra, as I said earlier, was getting the right information to the right people at the right time. If it saves time in the process from having to go to another system, to another department to get more information that will help you do what you need to do with your day-to-day job, that's got to be a good thing. You get an uninterrupted train of thought. If I'm doing some work in one system and I then have to go and think, oh, right, well, that looks interesting, I now need to go to somewhere else to get that detailed information, you're breaking the train of thought, you're increasing the time to get answers, and it also, I think, is very frustrating if that's what you've got to do in your day-to-day job. It's enabling you to leverage any investment you've already made in your BI and analytics tools. So by getting that information to a wider audience, you're increasing user adoption, you're empowering those users, and it just means, I think, that you're getting much more leverage and much more visibility within the business of the capabilities and KPIs you have out there. So how would you move this forward? I think the first thing to do would be to identify any areas within your business where there's a disconnect. So maybe think about your different user groups. How many applications would they need to go into typically for a typical day? Do they have to go to other departments to get information that they don't have available? Is there any way of kind of synergy of bringing some of that data together? Then I would think about the technical possibilities from your tools. Is it possible to either just have a simple URL link? Do you need to do some custom coding to actually link the systems together? Is it as simple as just opening the application, or can you pass that context through? Think about the scalability issues. So if you're adding a lot more users to your BI solution, do you have the infrastructure to support it? Think about licensing. So if you're taking it out to a wider number of users, is there maybe a reader license that's less expensive but would meet the needs? Think about the usage. Who needs to be using the information and what degree of flexibility they need? on that kind of points of sophistication, is it static reports, is it limited interactivity, or are you talking about really getting to self-serve and analytics? And if you're going further down those routes, then you need a training program in place to ensure that your user community is supported. So that kind of ties back with what Amanda was saying about making sure that people have got the right tools to do what they need to do. And under all of that, undertake a proof of value. If it's not going to add any business benefit or make that person's day-to-day life any easier, then it's not adding value to the business. And I think that's the key point, that you need to ensure that you're not just doing it for the sake of having embedded analytics. And I think one of the things that then does, I think it's empowering your users, but it's also kind of supersizing your operational research and supercharging it and giving much more functionality and much more capability. So thank you. I hope that was useful. If you want to talk about analytics in any way, shape or form over the lunchtime, I'm always available. And I would like to hand you back to Andy.